The silence of the Wyoming wilderness was broken only by the haunting call of a distant wolf. Somewhere in the dense forests that stretched beneath the shadow of the Bighorn Mountains, Sarah Bennett lay collapsed against the gnarled roots of an ancient oak tree. Her once vibrant blue eyes, now clouded with milky cataracts, stared unseeing at the canopy above. Her lips, cracked and bleeding, parted slightly as she drew in shallow breaths. "Is anyone there?" Her voice was barely more than a whisper, carried away by the gentle mountain breeze. "Please, help me." 3 days earlier, Sarah had been traveling with a wagon train, heading west toward Oregon Territory. A 30-year-old widow with nothing. Left in Boston after her husband died of typhoid, she had packed her meager belongings and joined others seeking a fresh start. Her blindness, which had come upon her gradually over the past year, made her an object of superstition among some of the more suspicious travelers. When supplies began running low and game became scarce, whispers started. "Bad luck follows the blind woman. The spirits don't want her crossing these lands. She's cursed, and her curse is becoming ours." Sarah had heard the whispers, but never imagined what would come next. In the dead of night, while she slept, 2 men from the wagon train had carried her away from camp. They had taken her deep into the wilderness, leaving her with nothing but the clothes on her back and a small canteen of water. "The wilderness will decide your fate," one of them had said, his voice cold and emotionless. "If you survive, perhaps you aren't cursed after all." Now, as the 3rd day of her abandonment drew to a close, Sarah's canteen lay empty beside her. Her strength was fading fast. The cool evening air wrapped around her like a shroud, and she found herself wondering if these were to be her final moments. A twig snapped nearby, and Sarah's head jerked toward the sound. "Who's there?" she called out, her voice stronger now, fueled by a sudden surge of hope, or perhaps fear. Soft footsteps approached, deliberate and unhurried, not the cautious movements of a predator, but the confident stride of someone who belonged to these woods. "You are far from any trail, woman of the East," came a deep voice, speaking English with a cadence that marked it as a second language. "The spirits led me to find you." Sarah's hands trembled as she reached out toward the voice. "Please," she begged. "I need water, food. I can't see." A gentle hand took hers, pressing a waterskin into her palm. "I am Tlanua of the Cherokee people. My grandmother's grandmother walked the Trail of Tears to these mountains. Now I walk between worlds, the white man's and my ancestors." Sarah drank greedily from the waterskin, the cool water bringing immediate relief to her parched throat. "They left me here to die," she whispered, "because they thought I was cursed." Tlanua knelt beside her, and Sarah could sense him studying her face, her clouded eyes. His fingers gently touched the skin around her eyes, and she flinched slightly at the unexpected contact. "Not cursed," he said after a long moment. "Sick. The white doctors, they have no cure for the clouds that cover your eyes. But my people, we know the secrets of the plants that grow in hidden valleys. The medicine of my ancestors might help where your medicine has failed." Hope fluttered in Sarah's chest like a trapped bird. "You can help me see again." "I can try," Tlanua replied. "But first, we must get you to safety. Night comes quickly in these mountains, and with it, creatures that hunger." With surprising gentleness, the Cherokee man helped Sarah to her feet. She leaned heavily against him, her legs weak from days without proper food. "It is a long walk to my cabin," Tlanua warned. "Can you make this journey?" Sarah straightened, her shoulders summoning strength she didn't know she still possessed. "I've already survived what was meant to kill me. I can walk a little farther." As they began their slow journey through the gathering darkness, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in a long time. Trust. This stranger, this man, from a people so different from her own, had found her when all others had abandoned her. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The path to Tlanua's cabin wound upward into the mountains, far from any settlement Sarah had seen during her journey west. The terrain was difficult, with loose stones and exposed roots that threatened to trip her with every step. But Tlanua guided her with patience, describing obstacles before they reached them, placing her hand on sturdy trees when she needed to rest. "How much farther?" Sarah asked after what felt like hours of walking. Her legs burned with exertion, and despite the cool night air, sweat dampened her dress. "We are close now," Tlanua assured her. "My cabin lies just beyond the ridge ahead, near a spring of clear water. It is a place of healing." As they crested the ridge, the scent of wood smoke reached Sarah's nostrils. "I smell a fire," she said. "My apprentice tends the hearth," Tlanua explained. "He will have prepared food and medicine, as I instructed before I left to hunt this morning. Instead, I found you." Sarah felt tears welling in her sightless eyes. "Why would you help me? A stranger, a white woman." Tlanua was silent for a long moment as they continued walking. When he finally spoke, his voice was thoughtful. "The divisions between our peoples were made by men. The Great Spirit sees no difference between the suffering of a Cherokee or a white woman. Pain is pain, and healing is my purpose." The cabin materialized through the darkness as a warm glow of firelight. Sarah felt the ground change beneath her feet, from uneven forest floor to packed earth, as Tlanua guided her toward the entrance. "Wane," Tlanua called out. "I have brought someone who needs our help." The door creaked open, releasing a rush of warmth scented with herbs Sarah couldn't name, pungent, sweet, and earthy all at once. A young voice responded in Cherokee, then switched to English. "Who is she?" The voice sounded young, perhaps 16 or 17. "Her name is Sarah," Tlanua answered, guiding her through the doorway. "She was abandoned in the forest by her own people. The sickness has taken her sight." Sarah felt gentle hands directing her to a bench near what must have been the fireplace. She could feel its heat on her face. The crackling wood popped and hissed, and somewhere nearby water bubbled in a pot. "How long have your eyes been clouded?" Tlanua asked, his voice coming from somewhere above her now. Sarah traced her fingers along the rough wooden surface of the bench. "It started almost 2 years ago, after my husband died. At first everything was just hazy. Then the world began to disappear bit by bit. And the doctors in your city, what did they say?" "That nothing could be done." Sarah's throat tightened. "They called it a cataract, and said I would never see again." Tlanua made a sound, not quite dismissive, but skeptical. "The white doctors know many things, but not all things. Not the old ways." Heavy footsteps crossed the room, followed by the sound of wooden containers being opened. Sarah breathed in deeply as new scents filled the air, something like mint but sharper, and another smell reminiscent of pine sap. "Are you hungry?" the younger voice, Wani, asked. Sarah nodded, suddenly aware of the hollow ache in her stomach. "Yes, very." A bowl was pressed into her hands, warm to the touch. She brought it to her nose, breathing in the aroma of what smelled like some kind of stew, rich with meat and wild onions. "Rabbit and forest mushrooms," Wani explained. "And these," a spoon clinked against the side of the bowl, "are wild potatoes that grow near the creek." Sarah ate slowly at first, then with growing urgency as her body remembered its hunger. The stew was unlike anything she'd eaten before, seasoned with unfamiliar herbs that tingled pleasantly on her tongue. As she ate, Tlanua moved about the cabin, the floorboards creaking beneath his weight. She heard liquid being poured, plants being crushed with a mortar and pestle, the soft murmur of instructions to Wani in Cherokee. The treatment will not be easy, Tlanua finally said, returning to sit beside her. The medicine must be applied to your eyes for 7 days. It will burn like fire. You will weep tears that scald your cheeks. You may wish we had left you in the forest. Sarah set down her empty bowl. Will I see again? I have treated this sickness before, 3 times. Twice, the sight returned like morning after a long night. Once, the darkness remained. Sarah's fingers tightened around the wooden bowl. 1 in 3. Better odds than the certain blindness Boston's finest doctors had promised her. What choice do I have? She whispered. Tlanua's hand, calloused but gentle, touched hers briefly. There is always choice. You can learn to live in darkness, many do, or you can risk the pain with no promise of light. Sarah straightened her back. When do we begin? Tomorrow at dawn. Tonight, you must rest. He took the empty bowl from her hands. Wane, prepare the sleeping furs for our guest. Sarah heard the apprentice moving across the room, laying out what sounded like animal hides on the floor. Why are you doing this? She asked, the question that had been burning in her mind since Tlanua found her. You owe me nothing. Your people have suffered terribly at the hands of mine. Silence fell, broken only by the crackling fire. When Tlanua spoke, his voice was measured, thoughtful. Many winters ago, when I was younger than Wani is now, I fell ill with fever. A white doctor passing through our village gave me medicine when our own remedies failed. He asked for nothing in return. She heard him shift on the bench. I do not help you to settle a debt. I help because the Great Spirit placed you in my path. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Dawn arrived with the chirping of birds and the soft glow of early light filtering through the cabin's single window. Sarah had slept deeply on the surprisingly comfortable furs, exhaustion claiming her almost immediately after lying down. It is time. Tlanua's voice came from nearby, rousing her from sleep. Sarah sat up, her heart suddenly racing. I'm ready. One Eye has prepared water for you to wash, Tlanua said. Then we will begin. The apprentice guided her to a basin of warm water, then respectfully withdrew as she cleaned her face and hands. The water smelled faintly of pine and something floral she couldn't identify. When she'd finished, Tlanua led her to a chair positioned near the window where the light was strongest. I will explain everything before I do it, he promised. First, I must examine your eyes more carefully than I could in the forest. His fingers gently touched her face, tilting it toward the light. Sarah could sense his closeness, hear his measured breathing as he studied her clouded eyes. Yes, he said finally, it is as I thought. The white film covers your eyes like river ice in winter. But beneath the ice, the water still flowed. Sarah swallowed hard, clinging to his words. What happens now? Now we prepare the medicine. Tlanua moved away, his footsteps crossing to another part of the cabin. Wane, bring the sacred bundle. The sound of soft footfalls approached, then the rustle of something being unwrapped, cloth or perhaps leather. Sarah caught the scent of dried herbs, earthy and complex. My grandmother taught me which plants hold the power to heal, Tlanua explained as he worked. Some grow only in hidden places where the spirits dwell. Some must be gathered under specific moons, with prayers offered in exchange for their medicine. Sarah heard the distinctive sound of a mortar and pestle grinding something to paste, followed by the hiss of water being added to a hot surface. The main ingredient comes from a flower that blooms only on certain mountainsides, Tlanua continued. The Cherokee call it Ueti Hisdii, star of the forest. Your people named it trailing arbutus. But there are 7 other plants that must be combined with it, each representing a direction or power. The smell in the cabin intensified, sharp, medicinal, with underlying notes of sweetness and earth. Sarah found herself breathing deeply, letting the complex aromas fill her lungs. "The final ingredient is honey from wild bees," Wani added, his voice closer now. "It helps the medicine stay on the eyes and draws out the sickness." Something sizzled nearby, and a new scent rose, slightly acrid but not unpleasant. "It is nearly ready," Tlanua said. "While it cools to a safe temperature, I must prepare you for what is to come." His footsteps approached again, and the chair creaked as he sat before her. "The treatment will burn," he warned again, his voice grave. "Your instinct will be to rub your eyes or wash away the medicine. You must resist this urge. Wani will bind your hands if necessary." Fear fluttered in Sarah's chest, but she nodded firmly. "I understand. The burning means the medicine is working, fighting the sickness that clouds your vision. Each day, the treatment will last longer. Today, just a few minutes. By the 7th day, from sunrise until the sun touches the western mountains." Sarah's hands trembled in her lap. How soon might I know if it's working?" "Some see changes by the 3rd day. For others, the clouds part only on the final day." His voice softened slightly. "Or not at all." "I'm ready," Sarah whispered, though her racing heart suggested otherwise. "Wane," Tlanua called, "bring the bowl and the clean cloths." Sarah heard the apprentice approach, then the sound of a wooden bowl being placed on a surface nearby. "First, I will clean your eyes with water blessed by morning's first light," Tlanua explained. A cool, damp cloth touched her face, gently wiping her closed eyelids. The water smelled faintly of mint and something else, something fresh and green. "Now, open your eyes wide," Tlanua instructed. "I will apply the medicine with a feather." Sarah forced her eyelids apart, fighting every instinct to keep them shut against the coming pain. She felt a light touch, the feather, presumably, at the corner of her right eye. "I begin with just a small amount," Tlanua said. "Breathe deeply, and remember why you endure this." The first drop of medicine touched her eye, and Sarah gasped. The burning was immediate, like nothing she had ever experienced. Not just heat, but a searing, penetrating sensation that seemed to reach through her eye and into her skull. Her hands flew up instinctively, but Wane caught them, holding them firmly. "Breathe," Tlanua reminded her. "Focus on your breath, not the burning." Sarah tried to follow his instruction, dragging air into her lungs in ragged gasps. Tears streamed down her face, not ordinary tears, but hot, almost viscous liquid that traced burning paths down her cheeks. "The medicine mixes with the sickness and draws it out through your tears," Tlanua explained calmly. "This is good. This is healing." It didn't feel like healing. It felt like torture. The seconds stretched into what seemed like hours as the burning intensified, spreading through her head until she thought she might faint. Just when Sarah was certain she could endure no more, cool water touched her eyes, washing away the medicine. The relief was so profound that a sob escaped her throat. "You did well," Tlanua said, his voice betraying a hint of respect. "Many cannot bear even this first, briefest treatment." Sarah slumped in the chair, her body suddenly drained. "That was brief?" "The shortest of the 7, Wane confirmed, releasing her hands. "Each day will be longer." "Rest now," Tlanua said. "Wane will prepare a tea that will help with the pain and bring you strength." Sarah nodded weakly, her eyes still streaming with tears, normal tears now, not the burning kind the medicine had produced. She heard Tlanua walk away, the door of the cabin opening and closing as he stepped outside. "He goes to thank the spirits for guiding him to you," Wani explained, pressing a clay cup into her hands. The tea inside smelled of chamomile and other herbs she couldn't identify. "Our teacher believes everything happens for a reason." Sarah sipped the tea, grateful for its soothing warmth. "And what do you believe, Wani?" The young man was quiet for a moment. I believe the spirits work in ways we cannot always understand, and I believe Tlanua is the greatest healer among our people." "How did you come to be his apprentice?" Sarah asked, curious about these people who had taken her in so readily. "My mother died birthing me," Wani replied, his voice matter-of-fact, rather than sorrowful. "My father was killed by white settlers when I was 8 summers old. Tlanua is my mother's cousin. He took me in, taught me the old ways when many of our people were forgetting them, turning to the white man's medicine and the white man's god." Sarah felt a flush of shame. "I'm sorry for what my people have done to yours." "You did not hold the gun that killed my father," Wane said simply, "just as I did not abandon you in the forest." The wisdom in his young voice startled her. Before she could respond, the door opened again, and Tlanua's footsteps returned. "The spirits are pleased we are helping you," he announced. "The wind changed direction 3 times while I prayed, a powerful sign." Sarah wasn't sure if she believed in such omens, but she found comfort in his certainty. "What happens tomorrow?" "Tomorrow the treatment will be longer, and the next day, longer still." His voice moved around the cabin as he began putting away his medicines. "Tonight you will eat well and rest. Your body must be strong for what lies ahead." As if on cue, Sarah's stomach rumbled. She realized she was indeed hungry again. Ravenous, in fact. "I will prepare food," Wane offered, moving toward what Sarah presumed was the cooking area. "And I will make a poultice for your eyes to wear through the night," Tlanua added. "It will continue the healing while you sleep." Sarah touched her eyes gingerly. They still burned, though less intensely now. Will I dream of sight, do you think?" Tlanua was quiet for a moment. "The old ones say that during healing, dreams often show what the waking eye cannot yet see. Pay attention. Do your dreams, Sarah Bennett. They may be the first place your sight returns. That night, Sarah slept restlessly. The poultice Tlanua had applied to her eyes smelled of earth and pine, secured with a soft cloth wrapped around her head. Despite the lingering burn, exhaustion had pulled her into slumber soon after sunset. In her dreams, shadows moved. Not the complete darkness she had known for months, but actual shadows, suggesting light somewhere beyond them. She chased these elusive hints of illumination through dream forests and across dream mountains, always just out of reach. She woke with a gasp, her heart pounding. Outside, a mockingbird trilled its morning song. "You dreamed," Tlanua's voice came from nearby, startling her. Had he been watching over her all night? "Yes," Sarah whispered, her throat dry. "I saw, not clearly, but there were shadows, where before there was only darkness." The single sound carried weight. "The medicine may be reaching your spirit. Before it reaches your eyes." Footsteps approached, and gentle fingers untied the cloth around her head. The poultice came away with a slight pulling sensation. "Your eyes weep even in sleep," Tlanua observed. "This is good. The sickness leaves with your tears." Sarah reached up to touch her face, and felt the crusty trails of dried tears on her cheeks. "How long until today's treatment?" "First, you must eat. Build strength." His voice moved away. "Wane has gone to gather fresh taluha, watercress. He will return soon." Sarah sat up on her sleeping furs, orienting herself by the sounds and smells around her. The fire crackled to her right. Morning light warmed her left side. The window must be there. "The men who left you in the forest," Tlanua said suddenly. "Would you know their voices?" The question caught Sarah off guard. "Yes. One was named Miller, the wagon master. The other was Byers, a farmer from Pennsylvania." "Why do you ask?" "The white settlement 5 miles west has grown. Wagon trains stop there now before continuing to Oregon." The sound of water being poured into a cup. "These men may pass through." A chill ran through Sarah. "What would you do if they came?" "Nothing." The cup was pressed into her hands. "But You should know they are near. All choices belong to you. The herbal tea warmed her palms. Sarah inhaled its aroma, mint and something like honey. I don't want revenge. I want to see again. The two paths can cross. His voice had moved again. He seemed to be gathering items across the cabin. Justice wears many faces. Before Sarah could respond, the cabin door opened with a creak. The stream runs high today, Wani announced, his footsteps light on the wooden floor. I found watercress and spotted trout in the deep pools. Good, Tlanua replied. We will have fish with our midday meal. For now, prepare the morning porridge with dried berries. Sarah sipped her tea, listening to the domestic sounds of the cabin. Wane preparing food, Tlanua grinding herbs with mortar and pestle. A strange peace settled over her despite knowing the day's pain lay ahead. Did the settlers who built this cabin mind you taking it? She asked, curiosity getting the better of her. A pause in the grinding. The man who built it was a trapper, French-Canadian. He married a Cherokee woman from my clan, lived by our ways. When fever took them both 3 winters ago, the cabin returned to the forest. I asked the spirits permission to dwell here. Such a different world from Boston, where property disputes filled courtrooms and ledgers determined ownership. Sarah found herself envying the simplicity of it. After a breakfast of hearty porridge sweetened with dried berries, Tlanua led Sarah back to the chair by the window. Today the medicine stays on your eyes longer, he warned. 4 times as long as yesterday. Fear fluttered in Sarah's chest, but she nodded. I'm ready! The preparation was the same, the gentle cleaning of her eyes with blessed water, the mixing of the medicine that filled the cabin with its pungent aroma. Open, Tlanua instructed. Sarah steeled herself and opened her eyes wide. The feather touched the corner of her right eye, then her left. The burning began immediately, just as intense as before. This time, she managed not to gasp, though her hands gripped the sides of the chair until her knuckles ached. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks, carrying away the milky film of sickness, as Tlanua had explained. Tell me, Tlanua said, his voice calm, about the wagon train. Why did you leave your Boston home? Sarah realized he was trying to distract her from the pain. She seized gratefully on the conversation. After James, my husband, died, there was nothing left for me, she managed between ragged breaths. His family blamed me for his illness. My own parents had passed years before. The blindness was just beginning, and I thought I might start fresh where no one knew me. A brave choice, Tlanua commented. To journey into wilderness when your eyes were already failing. Perhaps foolish, Sarah countered, wincing as a particularly sharp wave of burning coursed through her head. The line between brave and foolish is thin as spider's silk, Tlanua said. Often we know which side we stood on only after time has passed. The pain intensified until Sarah couldn't speak anymore. She felt Wani's hands holding hers, preventing her from rubbing her eyes. Minutes stretched like hours. Through the agony, something strange happened. Bright flashes appeared in her vision, not shapes or images, just bursts of light where there had been only darkness for so long. I see light, she gasped. Not clear, but flashes. Be still, Tlanua cautioned, though she heard excitement in his normally measured voice. The medicine works faster than I expected. Finally, mercifully, cool water washed away the burning. Solution. Sarah slumped in the chair, drained but elated. Flashes of light on the second day, Tlanua murmured. Your spirit fights hard for your sight. Wane pressed another cup of tea into her trembling hands. Drink. This will help with the pain. Sarah sipped gratefully. Is it normal to see light so soon? Each healing follows its own path, Tlanua replied. But yes, it is a good sign. For the first time since being abandoned in the forest, true hope bloomed in Sarah's chest. Not just desperate wishing, but genuine belief that she might see again. The remainder of the day passed in relative peace. The pain in her eyes gradually subsided to a dull ache when they served trout for their midday meal, delicately flavored with wild herbs. Sarah's other senses seemed heightened, perhaps from the treatment, or perhaps just from necessity. As evening approached, Talanoa prepared another poultice for her eyes. "Tomorrow will be harder," he warned as he applied it. "The medicine will be stronger, the time longer." "I can bear it," Sarah said with newfound confidence. "I saw light today." After the poultice was secured, Talanoa sat beside her near the fire. "There is something I must tell you," he said, his voice low. "Something you should know before we continue." The serious tone made Sarah's heart quicken. "What is it?" "The medicine I use. It comes from my grandmother's teachings, the white. Doctors call it witchcraft. In the settlement they would say, I practice dark arts." Sarah understood immediately. "You're protecting yourself by living away from the settlement." "Yes, and now by helping you." A log shifted in the fire, sending up sparks. "If your sight returns and you rejoin your people, they may ask how you were healed. Your answer could bring danger to Wani and me." The weight of this truth settled on Sarah's shoulders. She hadn't considered the risk these men were taking by helping her. "I would never betray you," she promised. "Never." "Words come easily in gratitude," Talanoa said, not unkindly. "But when faced with those who share your blood and beliefs, choices become harder." Sarah reached out, finding his hand in the darkness. "My own people left me to die. You saved me. My loyalty is clear." Talanoa's hand remained in hers for a moment before gently withdrawing. "Rest now. Tomorrow tests us both." That night, Sarah's dreams were vivid. She walked through a forest bathed in golden light. Shapes were blurred but distinguishable, trees reaching toward a blue expanse above, a deer watching from between trunks, a hawk circling overhead. In the dream, she came upon a stream where two paths diverged, one leading toward a distant town, buildings just visible on the horizon, the other wound deeper into the mountains, toward a cabin surrounded by healing plants that seemed to glow with inner light. She stood at this crossroads until dawn broke, never choosing a path, never choosing a path, never. The third day dawned with rain pattering against the cabin roof. Sarah woke to the gentle rhythm, momentarily disoriented, until the now familiar sense of herbs and wood smoke reminded her where she was. "Your eyes moved beneath their lids as you slept," Talanoa observed from nearby. "The dreams were strong." Sarah sat up, touching the poultice still wrapped around her head. "I saw a forest, and a stream where paths divided. A vision of choice," Talanoa said thoughtfully. "The ancestors speak through such dreams." Wani's footsteps approached. "I've prepared morning tea with honey," he said, guiding Sarah's hand to a steaming cup. As she sipped the sweet, fragrant liquid, Talanoa unwrapped the poultice from her eyes. His sharp intake of breath made her heart skip. "What is it?" she asked, fear edging her voice. "The white film thins," he said, wonder evident in his tone. "Already, on the third day." Sarah's hand trembled, spilling a few drops of tea onto her lap. "Does that mean—" "It means the medicine works swiftly in you." Talanoa's voice remained measured despite his evident surprise. "Today's treatment will be crucial and difficult." After a breakfast of corn cakes sweetened with maple sugar, Sarah was once again led to the chair by the window. Rain continued to fall outside, creating a soothing background rhythm that belied the ordeal ahead. "Today the medicine stays for half the morning," Talanoa explained as he prepared the mixture. "And today I add the root of suwoni, ginseng. It strengthens the medicine's power, but increases the burning." Sarah swallowed hard, gathering her courage. The treatments had been nearly unbearable already. "Before we begin," Tlanua said, "I must ask if you wish to continue. Some would choose to live in darkness rather than endure what comes next." "I've seen light again," Sarah replied firmly. "I won't turn back now." The cleaning of her eyes was now familiar, almost ritualistic. Then came the warning, "Open." When the medicine touched her eyes this time, Sarah couldn't suppress a cry of pain. The burning was exponentially worse, as if her eyes had been pierced by white-hot needles. Her back arched involuntarily, and only Wani's firm hands on her shoulders kept her in the chair. "Breathe through the pain," Tlanua instructed, his voice a distant anchor in a sea of agony. "The medicine fights hardest when the healing is near." Beyond the searing pain, something incredible happened. The darkness that had been Sarah's constant companion for months began to fracture. Not just flashes now, but actual shapes. Blurry, indistinct, but undeniably there. "I see shadows," she gasped between waves of pain. "Moving shapes." "Be still," Tlanua cautioned. "Let the medicine work." What followed was the most excruciating hour of Sarah's life. The burning never lessened, yet somehow she endured. Tears streamed continuously down her face, soaking the front of her dress. Yet with each passing minute, the shadowy shapes became slightly more defined. When Tlanua finally washed the medicine away, Sarah collapsed forward, utterly spent. Wani caught her, easing her back against the chair. "Water," she croaked, her throat raw from the strain of containing her cries. After drinking deeply from the cup Wani provided, Sarah found her voice again. "The shadows. They're still there. Even with the medicine gone." Tlanua knelt before her. "What do you see now?" Sarah blinked, focusing on the blurry shape before her. "A darkness. Your shape against something lighter behind you. The window, maybe?" A breath of amazement escaped Tlanua. 3 days. In 3 days you journey from complete darkness to shadows." His voice lowered. "The spirits favor you greatly. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." The rest of the day passed in a state of wonder for Sarah. Though the shadows remained indistinct, their very presence was miraculous. She could detect movement, could tell when someone passed between her and the window's light. After months of absolute darkness, even this limited awareness felt like rebirth. As evening approached, an unexpected sound reached the cabin. Hoofbeats on the forest path. "Someone comes," Tlanua said, his voice instantly alert. "Wane, take Sarah to the back room." The young apprentice guided Sarah through a doorway she hadn't known existed, into a smaller space that smelled of dried herbs and animal pelts. "Stay silent," Wani whispered, before leaving her alone. Sarah strained to hear what was happening. The cabin door opened, and an unfamiliar voice called out a greeting. "Evening, medicine man," the voice said, male, with the hard accent of the frontier. "Got word in town you might have remedies for sale." "I trade medicines sometimes," Tlanua replied, his voice revealing nothing. "What ailment troubles you?" "My wife's got the fever, shaking something fierce since yesterday." The man's voice moved further into the cabin. "Sheriff said you cured his boy last winter." "Sit," Tlanua offered. "I will prepare something for the fever." Sarah listened to the sounds of Tlanua working, opening containers, grinding herbs, the clink of glass vials. "Heard tell there was a wagon train came through last week," the visitor said conversationally. "Heading to Oregon." "I do. Not visit the settlement often," Tlanua replied. "News comes slow to these mountains." "Strange business with that train," the man continued. "They lost a woman on the way. Blind woman, they said. Wandered off in the night, never found her. Some said she was troubled in the mind." Sarah's heart pounded so loudly she feared the visitor might hear it. They were lying about her disappearance. "The forest holds many secrets," Tlanua said neutrally. Here, this medicine will break your wife's fever. Mix with honey and give at sunrise and sunset. Much obliged. Coins clinked on a wooden surface. What do I owe you? The coins are enough. Footsteps moved toward the door, then paused. Say, you haven't seen any strangers in these parts, have you? White woman, middle years, blind, a beat of silence that seemed to stretch forever. Only spirits walk these woods besides me and my apprentice, Tlanua answered. If I see such a woman, I will bring word to the settlement. The door creaked open. Appreciate it. Good evening to you. Only when the hoofbeats had faded completely into the distance did Wani come to fetch Sarah. They lied, she said immediately upon returning to the main room. They said I wandered off. They're covering their crime. Men often reshape truth. To protect themselves, Tlanua observed, his voice tight with controlled anger. But now we know they search for you. What does this mean? Sarah asked, following the blurry movement of the two men with her newly regained shadow sight. Tlanua was silent for a long moment. It means your healing must proceed with greater urgency, and when it is complete, you must decide which path to follow. The crossroads from my dream, Sarah murmured. Yes, Tlanua guided her back to her sleeping furs. Tonight, I will prepare the strongest medicine yet. Tomorrow will bring great pain and perhaps great change. That night, as Tlanua worked by, firelight mixing his potent remedies, Sarah lay awake, contemplating her situation. The wagon train had moved on to Oregon, but had left behind a lie about her fate. If she regained her sight and returned to the settlement, would anyone believe her story? Would she want justice against Miller and Byers, or simply to begin anew? More pressing was her growing connection to this place, to Tlanua and Wani. They had saved not just her life, but potentially her sight. She owed them everything. You do not sleep, Tlanua observed softly from across the room. My mind is too full, Sarah admitted. The shadow sight brings questions. Yes. Sarah turned toward his voice, the blur of his figure just visible in the firelight. If I regain my sight fully, I don't know where I belong anymore. Tlanua was quiet for a moment, the only sound the gentle clink of his work with the medicines. There is a story among my people, he finally said, of a bird that fell from its nest as a hatchling. A family of ground squirrels found it, raised it as their own. The bird learned to run along the earth, to find seeds, to hide from hawks. He paused, adding something to his mixture that hissed as it combined. When its wings grew strong, the bird discovered it could fly. It soared above. The trees saw the world from the sky. But each night it returned to the ground, to the family that had saved it. The bird had two homes, Sarah said, understanding the meaning. Yes, two homes, two families, two ways of being. The grinding of the mortar and pestle punctuated his words. Some would say this made the bird confused. I say it made the bird twice blessed. Sarah smiled in the darkness. A beautiful story. Rest now, Tlanua advised. Tomorrow's medicine will require all your strength. As sleep finally claimed her, Sarah's dreams returned her to the forest crossroads. But this time a third path appeared, one that somehow followed both directions at once. Dawn of the fourth day arrived with a crack of thunder that shook the cabin. Sarah jolted awake, her heart racing. Through her new shadow sight, lightning flashed at the window, a brilliant burst that momentarily illuminated the room in stark white. A storm comes from the west. Tlanua's voice came from nearby, calm despite the tempest brewing outside. The spirits stir the sky on this important day. Sarah touched the poultice around her eyes, damp from a night of healing. When Tlanua removed it, the cool air against her skin felt like a blessing. Today will test the limits of your courage, he warned, helping her to sit up. The medicine is at full strength now. Rain lashed against the cabin walls as One Eye pressed a wooden bowl into her hands. The porridge inside was flavored with wild honey and something tart. Berries, perhaps. "Eat everything," One Eye urged, his voice unusually solemn. "You'll need your strength." Sarah ate methodically, aware of Tlanua moving around the cabin, gathering supplies. The shadow of his figure passed before her repeatedly, more defined than yesterday. She could almost make out the shape of his head, the width of his shoulders. Thunder crashed again, closer this time. The storm was directly overhead. "The timing is auspicious," Tlanua remarked. "Thunder spirits bring power. They break apart. What needs breaking?" After breakfast, Sarah steeled herself for what was to come. The chair by the window awaited her, but today Tlanua positioned it differently. "Face the door," he instructed. "When the medicine has done its work, let the first clear thing you see be the path ahead." Sarah's throat tightened with emotion. As she realized what he meant, he believed today might bring back her full vision. The preparation began as before, but with subtle differences. Tlanua sang softly in Cherokee as he mixed the medicine, a haunting melody that seemed to weave between the thunderclaps outside. Wani joined occasionally in harmony, their voices blending in ways that made Sarah's skin prickle with gooseflesh. "What are you singing?" she asked, fingers digging into the chair arms in anticipation of the pain to come. "A song of transformation," Tlanua answered, "of one state of being becoming another." The cabin filled with the now familiar scent of the medicine, but with new notes, sharper, more pungent. Sarah's nostrils flared at the potency. "This will hurt beyond what you have known," Tlanua warned, his voice grave. "But you must endure until midday without washing it away. If you cannot—" "I can," Sarah interrupted, determination hardening her voice. "I will." Wani tied soft leather straps around her wrists, securing them to the chair arms. "To help you. Keep your promise," he explained gently. Before Sarah could respond, Tlanua's instruction came. "Open your eyes wide." The moment the medicine touched her eyes, Sarah knew this was different. The burning wasn't just more intense. It was transformative, as if her eyes themselves were being unmade and reformed. A scream tore from her throat before she could stop it. "Breathe," Tlanua commanded, his hands steady on her shoulders. "Draw strength from the earth beneath your feet." Sarah pressed her feet hard against the cabin floor, trying to ground herself as waves of agony washed through her. The shadows before her eyes swirled and fragmented, breaking apart like ice on a spring river. Outside, the storm raged in sympathy with her pain. Rain hammered the roof, wind howled through the trees, thunder shook the very foundations of the cabin. "The spirits walk with you through this fire," Tlanua murmured, his voice a tether to consciousness as Sarah writhed against her restraints. Minutes passed like hours. Sarah lost count of her screams, of the number of times she begged for relief. Yet through the torment, changes were happening. The shadows gained definition, edges appeared. Dull colors began to bleed into her world, first gray, then brown, then hints of other hues. "Something's happening," she gasped between spasms of pain. "Everything's shifting." Tlanua moved before her, his form still blurred but more substantial than before. "The clouds part. Keep breathing." A particularly vicious surge of burning tore through her head, and Sarah felt something give way, like a dam breaking inside her eyes. Her back arched against the chair, a guttural cry escaping, her lips escaping. Then, miracle of miracles, the pain began to recede, ebbing like a tide pulling back from shore. The burning diminished, not because the medicine was gone, but because something fundamental had changed. "I see," Sarah whispered in awe. "I see shapes, colors." "The sickness releases its hold," Tlanua confirmed, excitement breaking through his usually measured tone. "Keep your eyes open. Do not blink too much." The storm outside began to subside as well, thunder rumbling more distantly now. Sunlight broke through the clouds, sending shafts of golden light through the cabin window. One beam fell directly across Sarah's face. For the first time in nearly a year, she truly saw light, not just sensed it, but saw its brilliance. Tears coursed down her cheeks, these born of joy rather than pain. "Untie me," she pleaded. "Please." Wani loosened the leather restraints. The moment her hands were free, Sarah reached out toward Tlanoa, her fingers trembling. "Let me see you," she whispered. "Truly see you." Tlanoa knelt before her, his face level with hers. Slowly, like mist burning away under morning sun, his features came into focus. A strong face with deep-set eyes as dark as river stones. Long black hair streaked with silver, pulled back from a high forehead. Skin weathered by years in the elements. Lines at the corners of his eyes that spoke of wisdom earned through hardship. "I see you," Sarah breathed, wonder making her voice shake. "I can see your face." Tlanoa's expression softened with a gentle smile. "Welcome back to the world of light, Sarah Bennett." One Eye approached next, curiosity evident in his movement. He was younger than Sarah had imagined, perhaps 18 summers, with a leaner build than his teacher and eyes that held both youth and old wisdom. "You are the first white woman to see my face," he said with a hint of shyness. Sarah looked around. The cabin, drinking in details that had been lost to her for so long. The rough-hewn logs of the walls, clay pots of herbs lined on wooden shelves, bundles of dried plants hanging from rafters. The fire's dance in the stone hearth. "It's not complete yet," Tlanoa cautioned, observing her closely. "Your eyes still. Old traces of the sickness, the medicine must remain until sunset." The burning continued, but now it was bearable, a worthy price for the miracle unfolding before her. As the hours passed, Sarah's vision sharpened further. By midday, she could distinguish the intricate patterns in Tlanoa's beaded belt. Count the logs stacked beside the hearth, see the rain droplets clinging to leaves outside the window. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. When sunset finally painted the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Tlanoa gently washed the medicine from Sarah's eyes with spring water scented with herbs. The coolness was blissful after hours of burning. "How clear is your sight now?" he asked, studying her eyes carefully. Sarah looked around the cabin, then out the window at the forest bathed in evening light. "Everything has edges, colors. I can see details I never thought I'd see again." She touched her face in wonder. "It's a miracle." Tlanoa shook his head. "Not miracle, medicine. Knowledge passed through generations. Your own spirit fighting for light." That evening they shared a celebratory meal of venison stew, rich with forest mushrooms and wild onions. Sarah couldn't stop looking at everything. The steam rising from the cooking pot, the flickering shadows cast by the fire, the expressions crossing her companions' faces. As night fell, Wane brought out a small wooden flute and played a gentle melody while Tlanoa told stories of his people, tales of transformation, healing, and finding one's true path. Sarah listened, mesmerized not just by the words, but by the visual details she had been denied for so long. The movement of Tlanoa's hands as he spoke, the way the firelight played across his features. "Tomorrow," Tlanoa said as the evening deepened, "you must make a choice. The vision you have regained brings responsibility." Sarah nodded slowly. "The crossroads from my dream. Yes, you can return to the settlement, perhaps travel on to Oregon, as you planned." Tlanoa's gaze was penetrating. "Or you may choose another path." "What of the men who left me to die?" Sarah asked, the question that had hovered at the edges of her mind finally taking shape. "Justice wears many faces," Tlanoa repeated his earlier words. Sometimes the greatest justice is to live well despite those who wished you harm. Sarah considered this, watching the fire dance in the hearth. And if I wanted to stay, here, in these mountains? Wane looked up from his flute, surprise evident on his young face. Tlanua's expression remained unreadable. These mountains welcome those who respect their ways, he finally said. But the path would not be easy. The settlers would view you with suspicion, a white woman living among Cherokee. They already abandoned me for being blind, Sarah said, with unexpected bitterness. At least here, I was seen for who I am, even when my eyes could not see at all. Tlanua nodded thoughtfully. Rest tonight. Dream on your choice. Tomorrow will come soon enough. As Sarah settled onto her sleeping furs that night, vision restored and heart full, she found herself standing once more at the dream crossroads. But now she could see clearly down each path, one leading to the white settlement with its familiar ways but painful memories, the other winding deeper into the mountains, uncertain but filled with possibility. And the third path, the one that somehow followed both directions at once, now seemed the most real of all, Sarah woke before dawn, her eyes opening to darkness that momentarily terrified her, until she realized it was simply the absence of light, not the return of blindness. The mere ability to distinguish between darkness and sightlessness brought tears of gratitude to her eyes. She lay still, listening to the soft breathing of Tlanua and Wane sleeping across the cabin. Outside, an owl called once, then fell silent as the first hints of grey dawn touched the eastern sky. With newfound sight, Sarah studied the cabin in the growing light. Details emerged from shadow, bundles of herbs hanging from rafters, each tied with different-colored strings, shelves of clay pots and glass vials, some filled with powders, others with dried leaves or mysterious liquids. A beaded belt hung on the wall, its intricate patterns telling stories she couldn't yet read. When Tlanua stirred and sat up on his sleeping mat, Sarah was already fully awake, watching the world emerge from darkness. Your eyes see the dawn, he observed quietly, careful not to wake Wane. Everything feels new, Sarah whispered, like I'm seeing the world for the first time. Tlanua nodded, rising silently to stoke the fire embers. Many who walk close to death and return find the world changed. Not the world, Sarah corrected softly. Me, I'm what's changed. A hint of approval crossed Tlanua's weathered face as he added wood to the fire. A wise observation. They shared a peaceful silence as morning light gradually filled the cabin. Wane eventually stirred, blinking sleepily before remembering the previous day's miracle. He sat up quickly, looking at Sarah with undisguised curiosity. Your eyes, he said simply. They're blue, like spring sky. Sarah smiled, touched by his wonder. For months her eyes had been clouded, their color hidden behind milky cataracts. Now their natural blue had returned. After a breakfast of corn cakes and wild berry preserves, Tlanua gestured toward the cabin door. Come, there is something you should see. Sarah followed him outside, gasping as she stepped into the full morning light. The cabin sat in a small clearing on the mountainside, surrounded by towering pines and broad-leafed maples just beginning to hint at autumn colors. Beyond the trees, blue-hazed mountain ridges stretched to the horizon like waves on a vast ocean. It's beautiful, she breathed, turning slowly to take in the panorama. This is the medicine you cannot find in cities, Tlanua said, sweeping his arm toward the vista. The medicine of open sky and ancient mountains. A small stream tumbled down the slope near the cabin, its clear water dancing over moss-covered stones. Nearby, a carefully tended garden grew with plants Sarah didn't recognize, some with purple flowers, others with silvery leaves that shimmered in the breeze. My healing plants, Tlanua explained, following her gaze. Many cannot be gathered. From the wild, they must be nurtured, spoken to, honored for their gifts. Sarah approached the garden, kneeling to examine a plant with star-shaped white flowers. "Is this the one? The star of the forest that saved my sight?" "Yes, trailing arbutus." But it worked only in harmony with the others. Tlanoir knelt beside her, touching different plants with reverence. Each has a purpose, each speaks to different ailments. Together, they become something greater. They spent the morning walking the area around the cabin as Tlanoir named plants and explained their uses. Sarah drank in the knowledge and the colors, the textures, the play of light through leaves, with equal thirst. Near midday, they rounded a bend in the path and came upon Wani at the stream. The young man had rolled his buckskin leggings to his knees and stood perfectly still in the rushing water, a carved wooden spear poised above the surface. With a lightning-quick movement, he thrust the spear into the water and lifted it to reveal a good-sized trout impaled on its tip. "First catch of the day," he called proudly, wading to shore. Sarah marveled at the skill and patience the feat required. "How long did you stand there waiting?" "Time passes differently when hunting," Wani replied, cleaning the fish with practiced movements. "The mind becomes still, like the surface of a deep pool." As they returned to the cabin with Wani's catch, Sarah felt a clarity of purpose settling over her. The decision that had seemed so daunting now appeared straightforward, illuminated by her restored vision. "I've made my choice," she announced as they prepared the fish for cooking. Tlanoir looked up, his hands pausing in their work. "So soon? My heart knew before my eyes could see," Sarah replied. "I won't return to the white settlement permanently, nor will I hide away in these mountains forever." Tlanoir's brow furrowed slightly. "You seek the third path from your dream?" "Yes." Sarah's voice grew stronger with conviction. "I'll travel to the settlement, but not to rejoin my former life. I'll become a bridge between worlds." "A dangerous position," Tlanoir warned. "Standing between worlds means belonging fully to neither." "Like the bird in your story," Sarah countered, "blessed with two homes rather than cursed with none." Wani looked between them, confusion evident on his young face. What would this mean? What would you do? Sarah turned to him, the plan crystallizing as she spoke. "I'll establish myself in the settlement as a woman healed by Cherokee medicine. When white doctors failed, some will shun me, others, desperate for healing, will listen. I can bring patients to Tlanoir who would otherwise suffer or die. And I can protect your secret knowledge, ensure it's respected rather than stolen or misused." Tlanoir studied her intently, weighing her words. "And the men who abandoned you? Miller and Byers?" A hard edge entered Sarah's voice. "Justice wears many faces, as you said. What greater justice than for them to see me alive, with clear eyes, telling the truth of what they did? Let the community judge their actions." A long silence followed, as Tlanoir considered her proposal. Finally he nodded. "Slowly, there is wisdom in this third path, but also danger." "All paths hold danger," Sarah replied. "At least this one has purpose." The afternoon was spent preparing for Sarah's journey. Tlanoir packed medicines for her to take, remedies for common ailments, tonics to strengthen the blood, salves for wounds and burns. With each item, he provided careful instructions, which Sarah committed to memory. "You have a healer's mind," he observed, as she correctly recited the uses of a particular root. "You remember well." I listened closely, even before I could see. Sarah explained, "When one sense dims, others sharpen." As evening approached, Sarah asked the question that had been forming in her mind. "Will my blindness return?" Tlanoir's expression grew solemn. "The sickness has been driven out, but like an unwelcome visitor, it may someday try to return." He handed her a small leather pouch. "These herbs, brewed at the first sign of clouding, a vision, will hold it at bay. With care, your sight should remain clear for many years." That night they shared a final meal together. The trout was delicious, seasoned with wild garlic and herbs from Tlanua's garden. As they ate, Wane surprised Sarah by presenting her with a gift, a walking stick carved from ash wood, its handle polished smooth by careful work. "To support you between worlds," he explained shyly. Sarah ran her fingers over the intricate carvings that spiraled down its length. "It's beautiful, thank you." After the meal, as moonlight silvered the clearing outside, Talanua brought out a small clay pot of red ochre mixed with bear fat. "Among my people, those who embark on important journeys carry protective markings," he explained. "With your permission—" Sarah nodded and closed her eyes as Tlanua's finger traced a pattern on her forehead, a symbol she couldn't see but felt like a promise being written on her skin. "What does it mean?" she asked when he finished. "It marks you as one who has died and returned," Tlanua said simply. "One who walks with power from both worlds." The significance of his words wasn't lost on Sarah. In a very real sense, she had died in those woods when her former companions abandoned her. The woman who now sat in this cabin, blessed with restored sight and newfound purpose, was fundamentally changed. Dawn would bring her journey to the settlement, her first test of the third path. As she prepared for sleep on her final night in the cabin, Sarah found herself filled not with anxiety but with quiet determination. "Will you visit us?" Wane asked, his young face serious in the dying firelight. "When you're established in the settlement?" "Yes," Sarah promised. "I'll become known for walking in the mountains. No one will question when I disappear for days. At a time to come here, and you will bring those who truly need healing," Tlanua added, not a question, but a gentle reminder of the purpose of her chosen path. "Only those worthy of your knowledge," Sarah affirmed. "Those who will respect it, not fear or exploit it." Tlanua nodded, satisfied. "Then sleep well, Sarah Bennett. Tomorrow you begin the journey of the in-between, not Cherokee, not fully of the white world anymore. Something new." As Sarah drifted toward sleep, she realized no dreams awaited her tonight. No symbolic crossroads needed to guide her choice. The path ahead was clear now, illuminated by restored vision and newfound purpose. She would honor these men who had saved her when her own people cast her aside. She would bridge worlds that had too long remained separate, bringing healing where there had been only suspicion and fear. And perhaps, in some small way, she would help create a future where wisdom was shared, rather than divided by the artificial boundaries of race and culture. In the morning, Sarah Bennett would walk down the mountain path toward the settlement. With clear eyes, carrying Cherokee medicine in her pack, Cherokee knowledge in her mind, and the mark of protection on her forehead. Neither fully of one world nor the other, but something new and necessary, a bridge, a translator, a healer of bodies, and perhaps in time, of deeper wounds between peoples. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.